Okay, our last type of immune deficiency or malfunction is the example of HIV and AIDS, but in particular HIV infection. So immune deficiency diseases can also be called immunodeficiency diseases. Either one is fine, whichever one you prefer to use. And what it means is your immune system cannot respond to antigens, usually because you have a decrease in white blood cells. Okay, that's a really simple way of looking at it. And so here is the HIV infection process. Now I'm going to represent all of these in one diagram, particularly in class, to kind of link everything together. So in this case, the HIV virus actually infects T helper cells. Now, what do we know about viruses when they infect a cell? Okay, they insert their DNA, the host cell reproduces the virus, and then this happens. The T helper cells are going to burst open. That means you get a decrease in T helper cells. Okay? If you get a decrease in T helper cells, what can't you do? You can't activate B plasmids, you can't activate cytotoxic Ts, and so your whole immune system is deficient. It starts to decrease its ability. Now, it's important to know that we don't die from HIV. What you are more likely to die from is these secondary opportunistic infections. So in this case, the death isn't caused directly by the HIV, but you could get a cold. And if you got a cold and you had severe HIV, then you can't produce the immune cells you need to battle off that virus. And therefore that virus might win. Normally our immune system can battle off a virus like a cold and we can recover ourselves. But if you get HIV, then you might have a reduced T cell count or a T helper cell count, and therefore you're likely to get sick from something that normally wouldn't cause much illness. So you can see here's the mechanism. We start here. So the HIV virus infects a cell, inserts its DNA, reproduces, and a lack of T cells results. And there are these two words, HIV and AIDS. So HIV is when you've just got the infection, but your T helper cell count is still moderate. When your T helper cell count falls to less than 200,000 per mil of blood, then we classify you as moving to the next stage, which is AIDS. So HIV stands for human immunodeficiency virus, and AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Okay, so AIDS is like the more severe version after you've had HIV for quite some time. You can have HIV and you can live for quite some time with HIV, especially nowadays. But if it's uncontrolled, then you will eventually develop AIDS. It's really important that we understand how HIV can be transmitted and can't be transmitted. So you can get HIV via unprotected sex. It can be passed from mother to baby, but it is a definite fluid transfer. Okay? Kissing is not considered a fluid transfer in this case. Now, you can share injecting equipment because you're going straight from one bloodstream to another bloodstream, or you could have a contaminated blood transfusion. Just by touching someone, you're not going to get HIV. Just by sharing cutlery with someone, you're not going to get HIV. If you kiss, you're not going to get it. You can't get it from toilet seats, and insects can't transmit it. So it's actually quite difficult to get it unless you're undergoing one of these, what we call risky behaviours. So people that are intravenous drug users, so people that might be, have a drug dependency, and they share needles, not a very good way. You probably transfer HIV if the person that you shared a needle with had it. If you have unprotected sex with someone that has HIV, you are highly likely to contract the disease. This passed from mother to baby, this is a big problem in African nations. So in African nations, the incidence of HIV is very high, and so therefore it gets passed on quite frequently from mother to baby, which is a little bit sad, that those babies then have to be on those drugs from birth. And also, we don't really do this in Australia. We don't have contaminated blood transfusions. There are very strict and stringent tests that undergo any blood transfusion that you get in Australia. So HIV is a virus, and AIDS is the symptoms that you get after your T cell count drops down really low. Now, at the moment, no treatment for HIV. Any treatments that we have, there's no cure for HIV. We have lots of treatments. So we've got these antiretroviral drugs. So they stop the HIV from binding and infecting other T cells. They can block the virus from transcribing or doing this thing called reverse transcription within your cells, and they can also block the enzymes. So we have a couple of ways of defending the body against this virus, but we can never get rid of it. So once you've got a HIV diagnosis, you've got HIV for life. So there's two questions on your page there. Which type of cell is preferentially infected by HIV? And I'm hoping that you're going to go with T helper lymphocytes. Yay! And at what point does AIDS develop after an HIV infection? So when your T helper count is high, no. When your T helper count is low, yes. AIDS infection does not result in HIV. It's actually the other way around. And then when there are no helper T lymphocytes. If you had no helper T lymphocytes, you would most likely die very, very fast, because just tiny little things in your environment would be enough to take out your entire immune system. There's another little video. Oh, sorry, here are my questions. And then there's a few more questions that I'm going to be going through in class. So how do you transmit it? And which ways it's not transmitted. And so finally, you can fill in page 15. So girls, I can't see that. I'm just going to pause so that you can fill. So you should be able to now finish off your whole table on page 15. And if you need to, you can check over the answers that are on SharePoint.